I would like to request all participants and my fellow speakers for today to kindly switch on their webcams. We shall be going live in 5 minutes from now. Great, excellent. Excuse me. Yeah, fine. No issue.
Sorry, that was me. I was just checking it was working.
Yeah, understand. No issues. Everyone else, you must switch on the webcams. Garima, Pramod ji, Chetan ji, Kripi, Anvesh, Yugat, Nitin, even you. Great. So, recording. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm P. Shravan Kumar, the founder of SK Associates and Group, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our conference 2.9, where we'll explore the topic Unveiling Startup Funding, Strategies and Choices for Success. We are honored to have a panel of accomplished CEOs, CFOs, founders, co-founders, industry leaders, startup mentors, and business investors as our guest speakers today. By the end of this conference, I hope, and we all do hope together, that you will gain valuable insights into this crucial area.
Hello everyone, I'm Anjali Singh, the Head of Strategic Partnership at SK Associates and Group, and it's my pleasure to co-host this conference with Shravan.
Before we delve into our topic for today, let me briefly introduce SK Associates and Group. We are an ISO certified management consulting firm registered under the MSMED Act 2006 with the Government of India. Our mission is to provide consulting services to student entrepreneurs globally, covering areas such as compliance, operation, marketing, research and development, human capital, strategy, and operations. Our passion lies in helping these budding entrepreneurs bring their dreams to life and contribute to global economy.
At SK Associates and Group, we take pride in offering tailor-made solutions to our clients. Our team of transformational consultants has a deep-rooted passion for entrepreneurship, and they bring extensive experience and expertise to every project. Over the past 3 years, we have built a network of 5,000 individuals from 30 plus countries, representing diverse universities, industries, and functional roles.
Our ultimate goal is to assist 600 million students in India by providing pro bono consulting services in areas such as strategy, operations, human capital, compliance, legal advisory, research and development, taxation, and more. We also plan to invest 500 crores US dollars in these startups by 2035, creating more than 5,000 employment opportunities for startup experts, advisors, mentors, investors, and research scholars. Our vision is to contribute to global economic growth by empowering the next generation of iconic organizations and aspiring entrepreneurs.
Collaboration and strategic alliances are key to achieving our mission. We are committed to promoting entrepreneurship development and community impact with a focus on empowering students for global economic growth. Our aim is to partner with 1,000 plus universities and colleges by 2030, providing guidance and mentorship to students as they embark on their startup journeys.
The enthusiasm and interest we see among students for entrepreneurship is truly inspiring. Now, startups actually have the potential to address critical social, economical, and geopolitical challenges through innovative business models. By promoting sustainable entrepreneurship, we can drive positive change and obviously create a brighter future for all. Entrepreneurs not only generate job opportunities, but they also stimulate economic growth, offer innovative solutions to consumer needs, and foster collaborations with other businesses. We have witnessed remarkable success stories where entrepreneurs have actually tackled issues such as climate change, waste management, education, and many others.
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship is a catalyst for change and innovation. It's a powerful force that can reshape industries, transform lives, and make the world a better place. We are committed to supporting student entrepreneurs on their journey, equipping them with the tools, knowledge, and networks they need to succeed.
Exactly. As Anjali said, at SK Associates and Group, we are immensely grateful for the dedicated support of our executive management team, including Ms. Anjali Singh, Ms. Shrishti Singh, Ms. Vaishali Shri, Ms. Aditi Jain, Advocate Riddhi Bhanushali, Ms. Payal Shri, and Ms. Rima Kumari for the unwavering commitment has played a pivotal role in our growth and development. Thanks to their dedication, we can make a meaningful impact on the entrepreneurial ecosystem by inspiring, educating, and mentoring young individuals, encouraging them to pursue entrepreneurship instead of a corporate career.
Now, before we dive into our discussions, let's take a moment to introduce our esteemed line of guest speakers and tap into the wealth of wisdom they bring to the table.
Thank you. So, our first speaker for the day is none other than Mr. Pete King, a luminary in the insurance industry with an illustrious career spanning over 2 decades, having held pivotal roles at AIG, Willis Towers Watson, and Juris. Mr. King's journey is marked by achievements such as crafting growth strategy at Juris Financial Services and spearheading successful product launches at Willis Towers Watson. Now, as the founder of BX Consultancy and the InsurTech lead at Camelot Marketplace, he tirelessly works to optimize businesses and their strategies for insurers and insurtech.
Our second speaker today is Mr. Sahil Chopra, an accomplished management and legal professional who currently serves as a managing partner at Fair Capital. With an impressive 15-year tenure in the Indian private equity market, Mr. Chopra has been at the forefront for collaborating with leading firms and nurturing startups. His extensive expertise encompasses corporate laws, contract management, legal advisory, and startup funding. Beyond his professional endeavors, he dedicated himself to mentoring young entrepreneurs and legal professionals, earning recognition as the Global Goodwill Ambassador for India.
Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Matson. Far beyond being an executive business leader, Mr. Matson is a visionary with a wealth of experience in fostering growth across diverse industries and continents. Deeply immersed in the startup world, he actively makes angel investments and serves as a board member. Hailing from Copenhagen and now calling Singapore home, Mr. Matson brings not only professional insight but also a genuine passion for growth and collaboration. The core values of integrity, trust, candor, accountability, and respect, Mr. Mark Matson is a dynamic force we are honored to have with us today.
Our final speaker for today is Mr. Olatunde Damilade Salas, widely recognized as King ODS Rep 5:10. A digital marketing specialist and founder of the Digital House, Mr. Salas is committed to empowering businesses in the digital landscape. Over the last 5 years, he has made significant contributions across various industries, including fashion, edtech, forex, and more. Serving as the digital marketing mentor at Womenpreneur, he extends his expertise to nurture young entrepreneurs.
So, welcome everyone, and it's an honor to have you all with us. Your expertise adds a special dimension to our conference, making it a unique and insightful gathering. Our conference is currently streaming live on YouTube. Once the conference concludes, you can access the recorded sessions there. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and explore previous conferences hosted by us. Now, before we begin this conference with our panelists, varying from different backgrounds such as angel investors, private equity, and venture capitalists, we request all of you to switch on your respective webcams for a two-way interaction throughout the session. We would also like to inform you that our HR team will be conducting calls in the chat box throughout this conference, and we encourage you to participate actively in that. Now, moving ahead, I would like to invite our first speaker for today, Mr. Pete King, to commence his speech and share his wonderful insights. Yeah.
Cool. I did the first thing right. I turned off the mute button, which is always, sometimes at these conferences, I end up speaking for a while and then realizing the mute's off. But thank you very much for giving me this opportunity today. I always get excited when I get to speak to young entrepreneurs, because especially students who haven't entered the workforce or may have only just entered the workforce, because you're not restricted like someone like myself who's an industry professional in finance for 20 years, because you know no boundaries. You think about innovation, you think about doing things in different ways. And I think that's an exciting way to be as an entrepreneur, because sometimes when you're embedded within an organization or an industry for a particular period of time, sometimes you start to build restrictions, whether they're cognitive or they're kind of a blind spot to you, where you don't realize that your mind is starting to tell you a few things that say no. So I've got a couple of slides. I don't really talk to slides, but give you some bullet points and allows you to follow. So I'm going to share my screen. Normally this works pretty well, but we will see if it'll work okay on this. Okay, right. Someone needs to grant permission. Okay, it's not going to work. It's saying I need to get someone to grant me permission. So it doesn't matter. I can speak without slides. It's not a problem. So, a couple of things I'm going to go through today is talk to you about, what investors are looking for, tailoring your pitch deck, and the benefits of investors and the different types of investors out there, and what you should think about if you have an idea or you're looking to gain investment. And I think, I don't really need to talk too much about myself. I think, I had a good introduction at the beginning. So my background is finance. I worked with 20 years within finance. And latterly, I worked at AIG, a big American corporation running Central and Eastern Europe. And I'm talking to you now from Serbia. I spend a lot of time between Central and Eastern Europe and London as well, because it's quite a hub for investment and scale-ups and startups, where I have a business focusing on insurtech and insurers in the UK. But Serbia is where my consultancy practice stands, etc. And I decided to step out of the corporate world, having been a corporate person, used to having a paycheck on a monthly basis. What happened is during COVID, I had a lot of time to sit there and think, because I was traveling to 2 or 3 countries a week when I was at AIG because of my leadership position. And I just realized when I wasn't traveling, I just wasn't getting the fulfillment anymore. And I wanted to be inspired. I wanted to do something different. And I've always been excited about the startup ecosystem. So I set up my business in 2020. And since then, we've been focused on a lot of young entrepreneurs. We work with a lot of startups, mainly in the fintech space more than anything else, if I'm honest. So that's one of the interesting things. But let me just give you a quick moment, because I imagine a lot of people will tell you what they're seeing from their industries from a startup perspective. So in fintech in 2023, we saw a challenging year, I think it's fair to say, with the larger fintechs, which you may know around Monzo, Revolut. Some of them went to the market for funding, some didn't, because there was some down funding rounds. However, if you scratch to where the majority lie, the kind of, pre-series, angel scale, etc., A series, here was a very tough part of the business, trying to raise funding. And we saw a lack of funding and a lack of capacity. I also saw, and this is a fact, 40% of the VCs that I dealt with or know across Europe no longer working for their company. So a lot of VCs had a tough year in 2023 because they were struggling to raise funds, or they were cautious how much more fundraising they could do in the future so they could invest going forward. So we saw that as a massive impact. And unfortunately, in January, someone's just doing some work for me right now, we have seen a number of closures in the fintech space, and we've seen a lot of the talent move back into the corporate world because of this lack of funding. So that's obviously starting with something negative, but then I'm going to tell you about the opportunity that lies out there, because I do believe it's going to get better. And I think you had to have a little shakeout in order for everything to go forward. So one of the important things that you learn about those that failed, and it's important when you have a startup, is having, good business performance and financial tracking. Making sure you're on top of your numbers is really important when you're talking to an investor, even running your business at the beginning, understanding what it is that you're trying to achieve and what your numbers are. Now, I know a big question always comes is, oh, we're not really sure what our numbers are going to be at the beginning. That's fine, but you need to have a base of understanding about your revenue model, how you're going to earn, and what the opportunity to scale up is as well, because that's something that an investor will be looking at, and it becomes more cognizant. So 4 years ago, financials weren't such a big thing. We're starting to see more and more that you have a handle on your numbers. Probably the number one big thing, if you're thinking of startup, is you and your team. So, if you have advisors, and many of the speakers on here, I'm sure, advise startups, having people that have been there, done that, have experience, maybe exited, doesn't matter if they failed, but having somebody as a mentor or someone on your board or your team that has experience in this field is really important as well, because they have a lot of great insight that you may not have thought of as you start your journey. And that's often something that somebody's looked at. Investors often look at that, and that's a really important part of it. Having a vision is really important as well. Business plan, with your projections. I keep going back to the numbers because I'm a finance person. I think something that sometimes I've seen has become a little bit of a problem is you've built something, and each of your countries, I don't know India, but I know Europe, I've seen a couple of startups that have failed because they haven't protected their intellectual property. They've not registered it. So if you're thinking about being innovative and you're doing something different, it's really important to protect that intellectual property, because unfortunately, and I want to give you some honest examples here. I know a company that started up in Macedonia, and they had a great idea. They started to scale, and then they hit some legal issues around some of the intellectual property that they contain within their product. And because it was against someone who was a lot larger, despite them having a good case and they hadn't registered their IP, they ended up having to go out of business and settling because the others had more money. And I know that sounds unfair, but these things happen, and I've seen it a fair amount, and I've been, I know Merck has been an angel investor. I've done a lot of angel investing as well, and I've had 3 businesses that have failed because of legal disputes, shall we say, with other parties over naming, intellectual property, etc. So sometimes these things don't get explained to you, but it is very important to do that. And I think, understanding the market opportunity and the scalability is really important, and being able to tell that story. And I'll talk a little bit about crafting your pitch, that if you're going to speak to investor, what it's about. So, understanding your market opportunity, because your investors could be anywhere. They don't have to be just in India. I know you have a fantastic ecosystem in India, but obviously this program is global, and hopefully others that are watching this is global. So it doesn't mean you need to restrict yourself to just investors within your country. They may be more likely to invest, but you will get opportunities to speak to investors outside of your territory and region. But you need to really be able to help them understand what the market opportunity is, and also where you're seeing the scalability and the opportunity to move, right? So where you're going to go next. And obviously, if you're in India, you've got 1.4 billion people who live there, maybe more, and you're looking to go to another country, you need to whet the appetite of the investors. They need to think there's going to be good investment returns for them. So obviously, the next question is, okay, that sounds great. I want to go to an investor. What do I need to include in my pitch deck, in the information that I talk to an investor around? So obviously, I just talked about share your knowledge about the market. What is it that you're looking to disrupt, to develop? Where do you see the opportunity? Understanding that, what is your unique selling point that you're bringing? Because there's a crowded market. I think like a couple of years ago, even though my expertise is fintech, You know, a couple of years ago, a lot of people trying to do delivery because they were seeing the valuations, because it's fairly easy. There's a low moat, so it was easy to get into that field. So you were seeing lots of these fast delivery, last mile companies trying to copy Uber Eats, Deliveroo, etc., because there wasn't restrictions to that. And 4 years ago, 5 years ago, no problem to get funding. Then it slowed down because others realised the journey to profitability is difficult, and there's a reason why it's easy to get into, because logistics and other reasons are starting to be a challenge as well. So what is your unique selling point? That is something that, you know, VCs and investors are looking at more and more now, because they're a bit more cautious. A lot of investors have been burnt on the startup space, so they want to know what's different. So one of the most important parts that I think, or actually two are the most important parts, is one, does your proposition, when you do your pitch, tell a good story? So I've been in lots of pitches, and I'm sure many people will talk about, you know, fundraising, etc., where I feel someone's just a robot in front of me, and I don't really understand what it is they're trying to sell. And I think part of the problem is, if you're a startup founder, you've lived and breathed your startup for so long that you may not realize that it's in your head, you know everything, but when you come to explain it to somebody externally, they just don't understand it. So one of the top tips is, before you pitch to an investor, is to speak to a friend and family. Pitch to a friend and family, and do they understand what your startup is about? Because if they don't, then you may need to change it. And often I find it's because of the language. So, you know, you may be an IT professional trying to get into agriculture, and agriculture has certain words, but you're a technology professional and you're using technology terms, trying to sell to investors who know agriculture. And this happens with clients as well. We work with a lot of startups, helping them to improve their sales. And often I see them, and I go in and see a sales pitch with them, and we do role play, and they'll talk their language, but they won't talk their customer's language. And I think sometimes that's a bit of a challenge. So whether you're talking to a client or whether you're talking to an investor, it's making sure what you're trying to do, or trying to sell, or trying to raise money around your startup, is understandable. What is it exactly you do? Are you speaking the language of the investor? Are you speaking the language of your client as well? And I think that's important. And finally, and I see this a lot in pitch decks and pitch exercises around this, not finally because I've got a bit more to talk about, but I see often people do not address investor concerns. And I think it's okay, you know, as an investor myself, and I work with lots of investor companies, it's okay to say, I will come back to you on that, rather than either one, ignore it, or two, give a false answer. Because the investors are smart. They've worked with lots of companies. They'll know, and they know their industry, because they would have probably done some due diligence before they listen to you and listen to your pitch, is make sure you address their concerns and you do it accurately and truthfully. Because don't just say, oh, yes, or, you know, because investors will know. They'll know, they can see through. They'd rather you say, okay, let me come back to you on that, rather than say to them, yes or no, when you're not actually sure yourself. Also, you get caught up in the future as well around that. So, you know, last year we saw a lot of bootstrapping happening, where companies decided to go it on their own. A lot in the fintech space and insurtech. Reason for that is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, as we know, in 2023, from the end of 2022, was erratic, I guess you would probably say. This year, there's more positivity around it, and I'm quite excited to see what that space leads to in 2024, as we see a bit of a pickup and some change in legislation. But what we saw was a lot of those companies became all of a sudden difficult to fund, similarly in insurtech as well, and neobanks, etc. We were seeing a lot of those challenges. So a lot of people were just getting friends and family to invest. We were seeing a lack of investment from angel groups, a lot of lack of investment from VCs, etc., or they took a long time. The process took a long time. And that's probably something that I guess some people will touch on today, that the process from, you know, if you're thinking about raising funds and you think, oh, I'm going to need funds in November, don't leave it till October and November. This process, trying to raise, takes a long time. Also the due diligence, etc. So make sure that you do give yourself enough time. But there are benefits that investors can bring. Despite it being very difficult, it takes a lot of work. I know some fantastic investors that bring some amazing insight, but they also may have portfolio companies that may add to what you're trying to do as well. So expertise, as I said, one of the key things that they may bring on board for you is expertise, credibility. They may know and be able to share their insight about where they failed, where companies in their portfolio may have failed, where they've succeeded, etc. That expertise is really important. And I think when you're at the startup journey, listening is a really important attribute that you need to do. And, I've got a mentor that always tells me, when you're in this space, you need to give someone a really good listening. So, you go into a meeting and, you're with one of these experts, just sit there and listen rather than talk. Let them, soak in their expertise and have a good understanding and take on board everything they're saying. You may not agree, but they're sharing their expertise. And I think that's really important. Of course, the big thing, why would you raise funds, is going to be for resources. They're going to have resources that sit behind them, both financial and some other things, as I said, other clients. They may have platforms that may suit you. They may have payment platforms, expertise in this area. So the resources that they can bring to you often can be very credible to your business and also help you save on cost. And when you're a startup, or when you're, especially at the beginning, well, actually, most stages, as I've seen, you're always looking at every dollar, every cent, every euro. Where can you save money? And investors not just bring in some money, but when they understand it also, they can help you understand maybe where you're not being as efficient as possible. And that's one of the big things. And I think thirdly, and should never be underplayed because it is quite simple, but in this industry, relationships are key. And one of the things that they can bring, a good investor can bring, is potential customers. So, helping you to get in front of someone, you may think it's easy, you just pick up the phone, but, I know how many people contact me each day that try and sell to me, and I'm sure you will see your email boxes and LinkedIn, etc. You'll see that on a daily basis where people are trying to sell to you, but it's really difficult to get in front of the right person. You can get in front of somebody and it takes a long time, but investor can bring to you to get you in front of the right person, which I think is really important to think about. So, I think finally, just to conclude, because I think I'm probably at my time limit. So things to think about when you're thinking about investment. Are you ready to work with an investor? So you have to remember, if they're putting money in, they're also going to want to have a say, most likely. We're seeing more active investors, I think it's fair to say, in 2023 than we saw prior. And I think that's the path it should be as well. If you work, and I know a couple of the guys on the panel here are private equity. Private equity's always been more involved and more active. VCs, because of the people that tend to working there, etc., they normally have a larger portfolio, so they haven't been so active, but they realize actually these startups fail. They do need your support, and there's a lot of benefits that investors bring. So in 2023, we saw a lot more active investors who wanted to be involved, but not for a bad reason, but for the positive reason. However, a lot of founders sometimes struggle when someone comes on board and it's your idea, trying to come and sit at your board meetings, etc., and explaining some of the, as they go through the agenda, giving their insight, etc. But before you even think about what investor to bring on board, you need to think about, what does an investor look like for you? Because if it's purely for money, then maybe a bank loan might be the best thing to first to go to, or if it's purely for money. Because you need to think about, and I imagine all of you, if you're looking to do startups, have got fantastic ideas. So hopefully you're going to have, several investors who would be interested in it. So how do you decide, before you even go down the journey, what is it you want from an investor apart from the money? Do you want their expertise and skill in your industry, their contact book? I think that's really important to think about before you start that journey as well. And how much are you willing to relinquish of your company? How much are you willing to let go in terms of percentage of your company? A lot of the time people start to, normally in the first and second round, and it puts investors off. You start to argue over, I think many of us watch Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, and they always valuations and percentage, etc. So you have to think about how much you're willing to let go and think, is there leniency there or not? Because otherwise you can scare off investors as well. Can you achieve your investment? Can you achieve your objective without investment? That's a key thing. As I said last year, a lot of bootstrappers, so a lot of people were getting friends and family money involved. And one that's become more important, I guess, is what is your exit strategy as well. And I think that's something that surprisingly investors are asking more and more. And I think that's because they just want to know, what's going to happen in the future, because they want to return. They want to have some money come out of it at the end. What is your exit strategy? And for VCs in the more formal sense and more formal investors, private equity, etc., they have a process and, they know how to follow it. So I think that's important. So you can find me on LinkedIn. So I'll drop it in the chat box. And if I had my slides, you'll see my QR code, but these things happen. But just want to leave you with 3 things that I think are really important. Ask questions, believe in yourself, and don't be scared to ask for help when you're on your startup journey. And thank you. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the speakers. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Mr. King. That was a wonderful speech, and thank you for sharing the tips and strategies. Do we have any questions for Mr. King? I see a lot of speakers have joined in who are scheduled for the other day. Do you have any questions for Mr. King? All right. Okay. Okay, we can move ahead then. I would request Mr. King to please share email address in the chat box. And if any of our audience has any questions or seeks further information, they can reach out to you. Now, I'd like to request Mr. Mark to commence his speech.
Sure. Let me see if I can be a bit more successful than you, Pete, and in sharing. Let's see. Are you seeing my slideshow? Can anyone please just confirm?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction earlier. I'm extremely delighted to be speaking to you today, and I'd like to thank the organizers at SK Associates and Group for the invitation and the opportunity. Today, I'll be speaking a bit about the various ways of funding, timing, what type of funding and when, investor involvement, do you need it and why, how to approach the players of the ecosystem before rounding off. Depending on the phase you're in, timing, need, there are many ways of funding possibilities. They span from bootstrapping, which is really just you funding yourself, or purely from income from your startup, to your pre-seed, and all the way up to your Series A, B, C, and so on. The types of investors that are involved in these various stages typically also differ from stage to stage. Pete already touched a bit on it a few moments ago. First, you have your 3 Fs, your family, friends, and fools. These are people you know. They will typically chip in at the initial state of the venture to get things going when there is absolutely nothing in the company. The pros are that you know these people and they know you, so there is very quick access. The cons could perhaps also be that you know them, and it could potentially ruin a healthy relationship if these investors are not familiar with the risks of startup ventures. Then you have your business angels. These are individual and private people investing in startups. Here, they will also differ when it comes to experience, ticket sizes, which means the sum of money they invest, their risk profiles, and general startup understanding. There are many business angel groups and networks around the world, and the business angel network is truly a great thing because they are often the ones that you have to turn to before the venture capitalists are willing to step in. Pros include that there are many business angels out there with higher risk levels who are passionate about the startup world and who don't mind going in at an early stage, where they can typically also grab some higher shareholding for their investment. The cons include that each individual will have very different due diligence experience and requirements. Their ticket sizes are smaller, so you often need to deal with a lot of business angels at the same time, and it can end up becoming very time-consuming, both pre and post-investment. Having too many investors on your cap table can also become a challenge for later investment rounds. And if you need certain things in your company, to change certain things in your company, you sometimes need approvals and signatures from each and every business angels. So this can also pose a challenge. Then you have your venture capitals, VCs. These are companies investing larger sums of money in startups and scale-ups. They also vary in risk profiles, ticket sizes, stages they go in at, industries, and so on. They can vary in structure, and they each have their own KPIs, return on investment expectancies, and so on. VCs are equally great because they will be needed for that larger cash injection to scale your company. Their pros are they often have connections that can move your company very fast, and you typically only deal with one and not many, like with business angels. Their ticket sizes are larger, but that also means a more thorough due diligence. VCs are generally drowned in pitch decks from all sorts of startups, so it can often feel a bit like you're having to make your way through the needle of an eye, an eye of a needle to get you there. So fundraising at VC stage will also be time consuming. Be prepared for that. Today, more and more venture studios are popping up, and some of these also provide funding possibilities. I won't go more into detail about that, but it could also be an avenue of funding. There are many more ways of funding. Partnerships with large established corporations is just one example. There are just a few typical methods of investment that I just like to mention. You have your typical cash investment against shares. Then in cases where the timing might be a bit off, you're maybe in between investment rounds, or you have challenges evaluating your company, convertible notes might be an option to consider. The investor will then typically have the option to convert either to shares or repayment with interest after a number of years. Y Combinator has created a document which is called a SAFE, which is short for Simple Agreement for Future Equity. And this is somewhere in between the two previous mentioned methods, where you agree on an investment and cash injection here and now, but where the valuation of the company and the share allocation is based on the next investment round, but often with a valuation cap to sort of protect the investor. And then you, of course, have your traditional loan options, like you know them from the bank. When it comes to timing, in the earliest stage of your venture, you will typically be bootstrapping and relying on 3 Fs, the family, friends, and fools. This is typically during the ideation and proof of concept phase. Then you typically get your business angel funding during the proof of concept / building and startup phase. And this will be your first sort of real and formal fundraising. When it's time to develop, grow, and mature, you step into VC territory. And this is where you have your Series A, B, C, D funding rounds, and so on. There are some VCs that are more early stage than others, where some will specialize in the later stages on the phase curve. Some will reinvest in later rounds, and some won't. When talking to investors, just like they all want to invest for a great return, they also want to understand how this is as safe a bet as possible. That is, they want to see how will you de-risk as much as possible with their investment. And this differs at each stage. This graph shows pretty well the challenges that a startup needs to solve and the timing of fundraising to do so. So you see in the beginning, it's a lot about the technological risk and the solution, where it moves into market validation, go to market, then expansion of the company, and so on. But remember, there is no one size fits all. At any given time, you need to understand your business, what you need to do, and what it will take to do it. So Pete also touched a bit on this, but ask yourself if you're looking just for money or for smart money. So what do I mean by smart money? Smart money is when the investor has skills or experiences that you might benefit from as a startup. The investor might have a career in your industry. They might be entrepreneurs themselves with their startup experience, or they might have relevant manufacturing experience. And this applies to all types of investors, from your business angels to VCs. When dealing with VC investment, their involvement is more likely to be discussed formally upfront and documented. This will most likely be in the form of a seat at the board of directors or as an observer. Contacts to other future VCs and industry professionals can be a really great benefit from your VC investor. When dealing with a big group of business angels, the involvement can sometimes come a bit as a surprise. As mentioned earlier, all shareholders will in certain cases need to approve and sign off on certain things. And this can prove to be very time consuming and delaying if you have 10, 15 or more business angels. So be sure to be as upfront as possible in your strategy and discussions with your potential investors and yourself for that matter. But having said that, many business angels, when they have something valuable to contribute with, they would very much like to be involved when it makes sense. And this can be extremely valuable for a startup with limited resources and experience. An option could be for the group of business angels to select one representative to be part of a board of directors and decision making. Advisory board could also be an option. Investors always want to protect their investment in any way they can. And that often means that they want to be part of the strategizing and the big decision making. A board of directors' most important task, in my view, is to set the strategy for the CEO, and the board of directors should always have the investors' best interest at heart. So that makes a board seat a good way to involve your investors on a strategic basis if they have the right skill sets and profile. Because remember to make sure that no matter at what stage you are at, investor involvement needs to benefit the company and allow the CEO to execute on the strategy. It should not serve as just being an investor feeling they need to say something to protect their own money. But as with all things for a startup, at the earlier stages, things are very chaotic, whereas they will become more stable and formalized as the company grows. The pitch deck is probably the most important communication tool when introducing your company to any potential investor. This is where you will get the chance to spark people's interest in you. What you see here on the screen is an overview of how some of the bigger VCs like their pitch deck presentations. I won't go into details on this, but you can see that it varies a bit in terms of number of slides and what things are important, although luckily there is some consistency on the few must-haves. When dealing with business angels, again, you're dealing with individual people who are different in nature, risk tolerance, industry knowledge, and so on. So here, when you find interested business angels and business angel networks, try and get a feel for what's important to them. They often do this a bit more on a hobby basis, a bit simplified maybe, but the talks might be more relaxing and down to earth. When talking to VCs, these guys are professional institutions with investment analysts, partners, investment committees, and so on. They work in a much more structured way, and where certain criteria and figures must be an exact match before you can spark that interest. You will most likely be presenting the same things to business angels and VCs, but they will look at things differently. But as with all, at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, and what you need to build is trust. Trust in you, your company, and trust in the potential exit. And remember, that individual taking your business case to an investment committee at a VC, they also have their reputation on the line. So they need to trust you and your case. For VC investment amounts and numbers of deals have slowed down during the last year. And some VCs have changed their approach considerably. Before, it was more about investing in as many interesting unicorn potentials as possible, whereas now VCs are more cautious taking more time to evaluate each case and their investments. Most people like warm introductions because then there is already some initial level of trust. And this is what it is all about, building trust. As an example, a VC may say that they're not really ready to invest in you, but they would like to receive your monthly investor update. The reason they wish to have this could be because they are interested, but they need to see how are you able to execute and what traction are you getting on a monthly and consistent basis, because this will, well, you guessed it, build trust in your case for them before they have to present it to a superior and an investment committee. If you can't get a warm introduction, which is difficult, network in person and online, LinkedIn. Take the initiative to engage with people and write a super good and to the point introduction email. And be ready to talk to a lot of potential investors. For a big investment round with VCs, you can easily end up approaching 100 VCs. This will be hard work. Also be mindful that for the big investment round, you probably need to start your work 12 to 18 months before you need the money. It will not happen overnight. So this concludes my presentation for today. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. Remember that when you're asking for people to fund you, you're not only asking for a lot of money, sometimes it's people's own hard-earned money, and they may not see this your idea the same way as you do. Fundraising is hard and draining work, so be diligent, professional in your work, straight to the point, and ask questions to learn. Take each rejection as an opportunity to learn, because there will be rejections. But also remember that a rejection is normally not personal. Maybe it just wasn't the right time or the right industry. You just need that one success. And if you have something people need, and more importantly, are willing to pay for, you have a case and you can find your funding. I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin, for the amazing speech. Do we have any questions for him? Any questions? Please raise your hands or write it in the chat box. All right.
I will share my
Mark,
LinkedIn
I had a
profile as
question
well
for
in
you.
the,
As for being a business investor for around so many years, according to you, what is the maximum amount that any investor should invest in any startup that is in the seed stage yet?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And again, it's a gut feel, because so I'm personally part of a business angel network in Denmark. And this is an angel network that specializes in people who are not professional business angels. So here you often have companies that are okay with ticket sizes being as low as $10,000, maybe even $8,000. I've even had some that were even less. At the end of the day, for me, it's also about what kind of feel do I get from the founders. For me, I want a personal chat with them. It doesn't have to be a long one, but just to see what is their passion, what kind of fire is burning in them. So of course you have your due diligence, but I use that to also get a feel for how much am I willing to put in. I've done investments personally from, I think maybe the smallest was $20,000 up to, I think, let me get my $40,000 over a few rounds as well. Actually, 80,000 is probably the right one, and that was over 2 rounds. So I reinvested in that company. So it depends on so many things, and there's not a simple answer to your question. It also depends how much money are you willing to accept that you might lose, right? Because it's a startup. There's 90% risk that the startup is going to fail if you look at pure statistics, right? So it also has to be accepted that, hey, if you go in early stage, you might lose it all. I hope that answers your question to some extent.
All right. We'll move forward then. I'll request Mr. Mark to please share his email address in the chat box. And if any of our audience would like to reach out to him, please do not hesitate. Now request Mr. Silas to commence the speech.
Hi, good day, everyone. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be here. So, my name is Demilade Silas. So, I will be. Please let me just share my screen. Can we all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. So, give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Okay, so unveiling startup funds, strategies, and choice for success. You know, imagine you have a very, very, very revolution idea, something that you know that, oh, it could change the world. But then you just need one more key ingredient to make it a reality, and that is funds. And in reality, no business succeed without funds. Every business needs funds to start, to scale, profit, and everything. Funds is very, very important. So without funds, even the most brilliant ideas will just be ideas. So today we are just going to look at how to raise funds and my what I will advise every founder to start with. So as we know, startup funds is the capital or money required to launch a new business, an enterprise. And these small funds cover a lot of things from operation to buying equipment and every other thing, etc. So startup funds can come from various sources. And in this presentation, I'll be listing 5 to 6 sources where you can get funds from. And the two previous speakers have mentioned quite a few of them, and let's just go further. So different types of funding opportunities. One, grants. So grants can be very valuable source of fundings for entrepreneurs looking to start or grow their business. And many countries have established grants programs, though really conversant with I'm not really conversant with Indian, so but I know that a lot of countries have different types of grants. Even private companies launch different type of grant system for people to just use to start their business or their startups. So now another means is angel investor. Angel investors are individuals who provide fundings to startups in exchange for equity. It can be $20,000, 30, 50, depending on the angel investor. And angel investors are quite different from venture capitals. But then they invest money, and the money they invest too can help you move your business forward. Now, venture capital. So venture capital is a type of funding provided by this type of funding provided by venture capital firms. They look into investing in very, very high growth startups that have the potential to become the next big thing. The last speaker mentioned something about VCs investing in companies, startups that have the possibility of becoming unicorns in future. So, and some of these venture capitals include First Founders, Y Combination, and so many others. There are just so many. Now, crowdfunding. Mr. Pete, the first speaker, mentioned something on crowdfunding. So this is more like you asking people from friends, family, and folks to just invest in your business, in your startup. Debt financing. This is taking loan and credit from banks, financial institution, etc. And 6, bootstrapping. So bootstrapping is a very, very dynamic way of getting fund. And this fund involves building business from scratch without attracting investment. Is a way to finance small business by purchasing, using the resources at the owner's expense, using the money the company is generating without sharing equity or borrowing huge sums of money from banks. So now, which of these will I recommend? for anybody that wants to. So I will always recommend bootstrapping for any founder, especially if you are just starting out. If you are just starting out, the best way to get funds is through bootstrapping. And I'm going to give two reasons why bootstrapping is my most recommended choice. One, it gives a lot of control. It gives you a lot of control over your startups, unlike every other source of funding. Because when you are bootstrapping, you are in total control. But when it comes to you getting money from VCs, angel investors, you have to put them, you have to you can't make decision without them, without their input. So it gives you a lot of control. And that's one thing every founder really needs to have. At the beginning, at the early stage, when you are just starting out, you need to have that control. You know the vision of your products, you know where you are going, you know how to get there. So you need to have that control. One thing with VCs, with some VCs, is once they come into the organization, they are looking for they might want to change the direction, change the plan of how the organization is to go. And since they invested money, they have a say. And the second reason is if you want to raise from external sources like VCs, angel investors, there are 5 T's that they always look at: your team, technology, tranches, traction, and total addressable market. Before anybody will put funds into your business, it may be an angel investor or maybe a VC, they need to have all these details. They need to know that, oh, these 5 T's are in place. Nobody will just give you money, we just fund your startup without being sure that, oh, these things are in place. And as a founder, early stage founder, if these 5 T's are not there, raising funds from investor will be very, very, very difficult. And this makes bootstrapping a less difficult fundraising option. So now let me talk about bootstrapping using digital channels. So this is the use of digital channels to get people who will pay into your company, who will buy your products, who will buy the service you are selling, and then you use that money to do what? To grow your business. So according to Statista, there are 5.3 billion internet users worldwide. That's around 65.7% of world population. So the potential online for startups are very, 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 very high. And if you notice in the last few years, that's what every company, every organization, every startup, this is what they are trying to do, trying to move online, where the people who have the potential to buy what their service, to pay for their service, to pay for their um, products, where they are. And there are 2 ways to bootstrap using digital channels. Number one, organic traffic, and number two, inorganic traffic. So when we talk about organic traffic, so this refers to the visitors who comes to your website through unpaid digital means. And this majorly includes SEO, content creation on social media channels. For example, um, they saw a blog post written on your website, they checked out your social media page. Now, all these are very, very, very important because once you have your organic traffic in place, it helps you to get in people who will pay for your service, people who will pay for your products. uh, People will pay for your service and people will pay for your product. So you don't have to go out there, stress, look for VC at the early stage. One thing in Nigeria that I noticed with a lot of founders is they've not launched a product, but they are looking for VCs that would, fund them. And the truth is, before I will fund you, if an investor, before I will fund you, I would like to see, oh, what's your traction? How much revenue have you generated? How much have your company made? Okay, this is your total addressable market. But if all these things are not in place, I would be skeptical about putting in funds. So with organic traffic, you can pull people. And I'll still talk more on that. So inorganic traffic. Now, what do we mean by inorganic traffic? So inorganic traffic refers to visitors driven to a website through paid online marketing efforts. So this majorly includes running adverts on major channels like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., and so on and so forth like that. So when we are talking about inorganic traffic, you are looking at paying all digital channels to help you push your products, to help you push your service in front of people who have the capacity to buy. And is a very good way. Yes, you are investing money in this because you are going to pay these channels to help you push this thing. But the thing is, but the good thing is, you have a lot of what's the name? You have a lot of control. You can decide who they push it to. You can decide how to lead those people through the stage of them buying from you and you getting the money to invest back into your business. So, for instance, you run ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. Please, are we still seeing our channels? Can you still see my slides?
Uh, we were able to see your screen, it just went off.
Oh, okay. Please let me just. Okay. Is it showing now?
No. Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So, for example, you run ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the major purpose of all these things is to just make sure that you are able to get clients into your organization where they pay you, and then you are in that stage. You are what we're doing, what we call bootstrapping, using funds from your own funds and using funds from clients to build up the organization. Okay, so as a founder, if you can get all these strategies right with bootstrapping, it can and will open the way for you to get good investors in. Like I said at the beginning, there are various ways of getting funds as a startup founder. There are various ways, but bootstrapping is the first strategy that I will always advise every founder to use to get people in, because one thing bootstrapping will do is it helps you to address your total addressable market, and also traction. Because uh, I believe that we have investors and angel investors on this in this meeting, and they know one thing they are always looking out for is, okay, your total addressable market, your traction. Oh, what have you done? How far? What's the revenue? Tranches and etc. So bootstrapping helps you to get in good investors at the end of the day, because when they see that, oh, you've done something, that you are moving on a pace, it then gives them that confidence that this business is going to be a very, very successful one. This startup is going to be successful. And that will open the door for people to invest good money into your business. Thank you for joining me in this short presentation. Uh, Over to you, Angeli.
Thank you, Mr. Salas, for the amazing speech. So we'll move forward to the audience. Do we have any questions for him?
So, questions.
Silas, if you do not mind, I have a question for you. So, being
Okay,
the
yeah,
founder
go
of
ahead.
a digital marketing agency by yourself,
Yes,
what
yes.
would be your advice to entrepreneurs who are seeking investments, but they want investments for running and launching their digital marketing campaigns at a large scale? How would you like to advise them to begin from a smaller scale and go to a larger scale later?
Okay. So yes, if I'm to advise, I would advise they start with Facebook ads, and from there you scale up, and the results you generate from there, you see that, okay, there is a audience out there looking for this particular product. Then when you can successfully pick one of these channels like Facebook ad, and you can successfully make something out of it, then that should give you the confidence to move into other more complex like Google ads, LinkedIn ads. But I would always advise start with Facebook. One, the cost on Facebook is lower compared to that of Google Ads. So you start from Facebook. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And on a comparative basis, if we do oversee the digital marketing industry in specific, we have multiple modes to reach out to clients and multiple modes where obviously entrepreneurs can take investors. So which mode would you suggest? Would it be Google Ads, Facebook Ads, LinkedIn Ads? Like which one works the best according to you?
Please, I did not get that question. Can you please come again?
Okay, so when we come to the digital marketing industry, we have multiple
Yes.
modes to launch out various kinds of ads across various social media platforms, that is ranging from Google Ads to LinkedIn promotional ads. And we also have multiple other mode mediums to communicate and like get out and outreach to clients via email marketing, newsletters, and others. So,
Yes,
which
true.
mode of communication or digital marketing strategy would you suggest for entrepreneurs who are looking to scale up their startup in the initial years?
Okay. So scaling up your startups with ads, that's the question, right? So now it depends on the company. Now, for example, if you are in the B2C, that is business to consumers, then I would always recommend Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. That's you are targeting your customer, your target audience is the consumer. But if you are a B2B, business to business, then I always advise that you start with LinkedIn ads.
Okay,
I hope that
that's
answers
a great
it.
answer, Silas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Sure. Pete, am I audible? Yeah, Pete. King, am I audible? Mr. King?
Sorry, did you ask a question?
Yeah. So apologies, I didn't get the time to ask this particular question to you. Since you have been for
Okay.
such a long time into the investment services industry as an investor yourself, like what would be your suggestion to those entrepreneurs who are with us today and they're looking for investors? Which investors should they actually pitch for the beginning, for the initial stage? Would it be a venture capitalist, investment bank, angel investor, or which category?
So I think you can't rule out all of it. I think it goes to the point of deciding what your investor looks like. I think investment bank wouldn't be so interested because normally they're dealing with, depending on country, 100 million plus, and in London you're talking a larger size. So investment bank's probably not who you want to go with. And I guess it depends on which part of your journey and what you're looking for an investor to bring. As Mr. Madsen said earlier, he's part of an angel community. They bring a lot. I know a lot of angel communities out there that bring a lot of things, and they often have, whether it's female entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in a certain area, they bring expertise in there. And VCs bring a lot of stuff as well. And then friends and family bring. So I think it really depends what you're looking for the investor to bring and what you're looking for.
Okay, so like which kind of or which category of investor would you suggest Pete for entrepreneurs at various stages?
So I quite like at the early stage angel investors because you have a pool of people who can come and help you, or crowdfunding. I kind of similar because it's a great way to market yourselves, because if you have a number of people who invested in your product, because they're invested, they're going to tell other people about your product and want you to succeed. So they might reach out to you and help you with your sales or whatever your service is. So I quite like those, but that's a personal opinion. That's not, I'm not saying that VCs, don't have their place. I just think that at the beginning stage, crowdfunding and angel investors, I see bring a lot, not just the money to the table.
And which category of investor do you suggest for entrepreneurs in the growth stage? That is,
At growth stage, it depends how big it depends tickets, it depends what size you're talking about. But that's when you may need to talk to VCs. But then, I think then what's important as the growth stage is getting strategic VCs. So those that have an understanding of your industry, because they can bring you, because at the growth phase, you're still got a lot to think about and a lot of dangers and pitfalls. So it's bringing on the right strategic investors that understand. The other part as well that we haven't really touched on is corporate venture capital. So for me, if you're working banking or insurance, a lot of these have investment arms that are looking at startups or competitions. So I shouldn't rule those out as well when you're in that growth phase.
by the way, Mark. Sorry, Mark. Yeah, If you would like to tell us something about your startup, BX Consultancy, like what was your vision when you began this consulting firm?
Who is the question to me again?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So I wanted to leave the corporate world, so I have a number of investments, but I'm more active. So I did the angel investing, and then I found it not satisfying because I wasn't involved in the businesses. So I have a few startups that I'm involved in now because I just like to roll my sleeves up, and I feel I've got a lot to offer. I found I wasn't really someone who's a passive investor. So BX Consultancy, we advise startups. We don't always invest, but then we invest in some, and it's me that I'll sit on the board normally and provide it. And often what I bring is my contact list, to help with customers or to help with things. Because there's areas that the team aren't always experts on, whether it's, obviously the big one at the moment, it's the first meeting I've been on that no one's touched on AI. So, who do you know to bring in that can bring AI into your proposition? Because all investors are always asking about this latest part, or whether it's these new drugs that we're seeing at the moment that help you lose weight. So it depends what the industry you're in, but I like to be more proactive around it. So that's one of the excitements I get out of being alone. Whereas if I was in the corporate world, I wouldn't have the time to spend with startups. So that's that's one of the things that benefits I get out of it.
That's a really great vision, Pete. Yeah, Mark, my question to you was, if you would like to tell us about what your vision is at UDU Singapore as a board member. Like, what does UDU do?
So what does UDU do? UDU is a Danish startup company that wants to solve the oncoming challenge that is right in front of us of kids and people in general becoming more and more obese. So UDU is a handheld console where you will play mobile games through your phone, but using a handheld device. So imagine you're playing this game on your mobile. Today you will swipe to hit the ball and all that. Imagine you can play that with a handheld device where you can swing like this. So what we really want to do is get the kids, because they are going to play. That's how they do today. Get them off the couch out into the nature where they can also play with other kids and adults alike, not only in their neighborhood, but also online. So the vision for us is to revolutionize that industry. Obviously, it's a very big industry. There are some big players there, and right now we are in a funding stage of a Series A, and that is to really start launching the product. We've had amazing feedback from kids and adults alike. So yeah, getting really good traction, but it is now to get it over the starting line, so to say, get it into the market.
Okay, Mark. So, like, what is your plan for UDU? Like, what do you aim to do in the upcoming 5 years? Yeah,
so right now, and this is what I also touched a bit on during my speech. It takes a lot of time. It as a board member, I'm involved right now, maybe every month, every second month. When the company was smaller and the board was smaller, I was involved maybe once a week. And right now we've talked to loads of VCs. We pivoted from being a company that also wanted to develop our own games to actually develop a development kit so that gaming studios could more easily integrate their games. And that is really what we are doing now. We're learning a lot. We're talking to a lot more of the right people. So we're learning a lot about what's actually needed in the market, not only from the customers, but from the development studios. And then it is get that funding in the next couple of months and really launch UDU globally. So we're probably gonna start a bit more locally, go US probably, and then get this out. So everybody in this event will know what a UDU console is. It is to conquer the world. Simply, it has the potential to do that.
That's a great plan.
Everybody also always talks about unicorns, right? And not all companies are meant to be unicorns. It doesn't mean it's a bad investment, but this one has potential to become big. So yeah, conquer the world.
Exactly. That's a great plan, Mark. Yeah, same question to you, Silas. Like, what is your vision when you began the digital house in Nigeria?
Okay, so regarding my vision, the goal was to help businesses make sales via digital channels, because here in Nigeria I discovered that a lot of people were not taking advantage of the opportunities possessed by the online world. So they just focus on traditional marketing, which is very, very effective here in Nigeria. But I just felt like, oh, you can also complement this traditional marketing with digital marketing. So that was what to help businesses scale up, make money through the online world. That's where how I got started with Digital House.
That's great, Silas. So, what is your plan about a digital house? How do you aim to go forward in the next 5 years?
Oh, okay, yes. So within the next 5 years, the plan is to scale it into becoming a global brand. So from just being a company that specializes in Google, Facebook ads in Nigeria, we want to move outside of Nigeria, because I believe that, oh, not only is this skills needed in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, in other countries, there are companies too that need this. So the goal is to scale outside of Nigeria in the next 5 years.
That's a great plan, Silas. By the way, tell us something about the Nigerian ecosystem, startup ecosystem, Silas. Like, we have heard a lot that startups have been blooming into Nigeria, Uganda, these regions.
Yes. There are some startups that are doing very great, and a lot more. And the ecosystem is pretty great. Though I think the two other speakers mentioned something about how it is difficult to raise funds, especially in 2023. A lot of startups could not raise funds, but I just believe that in 2024 things will become better, and hopefully it would. But the startup space here is booming. A lot of new startups are coming up every time, solving tackling different problems, and I'm excited for the future.
That's great. Well, this was a great time talking to you and knowing your visions. The major part in entrepreneurship is being clear about vision after all. If that is clear, the roadmap automatically comes into our minds. Yeah.
Yes.
Anjali, if you have any questions for a panel.
Okay, so I have one question. I understand the conference is held for entrepreneurs, and the topic is related to fundraising. But I wanted to know if someone wants to become an angel investor. Uh, what is the roadmap to it? So do we need to become a business owner first and then, uh, start investing, or we can start doing that at a very young age? Like, my question is to Mr. Mark.
Yeah, great question. I think if I can share my own personal experience, I went into business angel investing before I co-founded a company myself. So definitely you can do that. And for me, so at that time I had just gotten a job in a scale up company. That's sort of what maybe sparked that interest a little bit. And a bit by coincidence, I found out, I learned about this business angel network in Denmark. That again, it specialized a bit more on, people who are not professional business angels, people who want to invest the smaller amounts, and that network was great for me because that's a good entry level, both in terms of the level of knowledge or lack of same that I had about angel investment and investing in startups, but also the ticket sizes fit my profile a lot better 5 years ago. So I would seek out those angel networks that exist, and I don't know what that environment looks like in India, but I'm sure that there are many sort of national and more localized angel networks. And again, like I mentioned, go on LinkedIn, find people and see, what they do and ask for help, because a lot of people, if they can find time, of course, they're more than happy to help, and they love to talk about themselves and what experiences they had and what was successful and what was not, right? So again, try and engage people and understand a bit more. And I'd say joining an angel network, again, just to add to that, it's a great way to tap on those people who have more experience, who've done the due diligence before, who knows what questions to ask. I mean, I remember my first investment in due diligence compared to, my fifth one, massive learning curve, whole different set of questions and things you start seeing, right? So tap into the networks.
Okay, so if you're a fresher in the market as a business angel investor, I think networks do work. But other than that, what do you suggest? Like, how do we proceed and kind of lock our first client?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? The first part I missed.
So as a fresher in the market, as an angel investor, so how do you attract clients? I understand networks will work. As you said, we should kind of bring our networks, join networks. But other than that, what do you suggest?
Well, so I'd say it's something that I don't have a lot of experience with. And again, what you want then is, if I understand it correctly, is for companies to find you. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
companies find
again,
us, or how do we find that company?
Yeah, so again, for me, it would be LinkedIn, right? To search and put into your own profile. You've got that about section where you can type in a certain number of words. Put in that you're an angel investor, a business angel investor. Put in maybe the region that you're in, because if people will Google and search for you, you should pop up. So again, I would use that as a good starting point.
So don't you think that as a fresher, you being a fresher, that can be a inhibitor in for that person to take you as an investor?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So for example, you are the business owner who wants the investment, and I am the angel investor. But I'm a
Right.
fresher in the market. So would you lock me? Would you take me in as an investor? Because I do not have any experience and do not. I may have a lot of money, but I do not have any experience. So there are a lot of other criteria they might.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, so great. I think again, it comes down to, as a business owner, what is it you want? Again, is it just the money, or is it also that smart money? And for me, I mean, any person has something to contribute with, but you have to ask yourself as a business owner, what do you want from your investor? So being a first-time investor doesn't mean that you're a bad investor, right? Because you still have experience of doing something.
Okay.
I hope that answers. It's a very broad question, right? But again, as a business owner, ask yourself what it is you need from your investor.
All right. Okay.
Mark, if you do not mind, I have a last question for you. As
Sure.
Anjali just cited, investors have acted as mentors in multiple cases, right? We do agree to this. So, is it necessary that any investor should act as a mentor to a startup, or is it optional? That is, depending on the will of the investor as well as the entrepreneur.
So let me get that straight. If investors should act as mentors for the startup, did I get that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. Again, it's a one size doesn't fit all, right? Because if you have a company where your founding team are experienced entrepreneurs, doesn't mean they don't need mentors, but then they would need very experienced mentors. And if you have a founding team that are very inexperienced, any knowledge that is more will be beneficial, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think where investors can chip in, and if they want, Pete, you also mentioned that you like to be involved, right? And I'm a bit the same, that some of my investments are completely silent investor, but then there is Udo, for example, where I'm quite heavily involved, and I love that, right? Because it's also a learning curve for me, right? So I think that when you have that stage of very early startups and business angels who are also early stage or first time, both have sort of a tendency to be more open because you also lack a lot of knowledge and experience yourself. And I think that's great learning curves for both parties to just get into it together, if it makes sense.
That's great, Mark. What's your opinion on the same question, Pete?
So on angel investors and what you should think about.
Yeah, for angel investors
look,
and investors, the combined role. How does it work?
So I think one of the things just to think about when you want to become an angel investor for the first time is understand that your capital is at risk. So understand how much you can afford to put down. I think that's an important part. And also as an angel investor, what is it? I would suggest, and I'm not saying this is the right way, but I've made mistakes and lost money. So I'm giving you my thing. I only invested in things now I understand. So before I invested in things because I heard they were good. Now I invest in, as an investor, I invest in areas that I know, I can add value if I become active involved as an investor. And two, I understand what the business is about because, I invested in an online retailer, it went bankrupt. I invested in a couple of restaurants, so I've done it both tech and non-tech things. And I don't understand those industries, right? Fast fashion and fast food and things like that. I didn't understand. I've been a customer. So I would also think about it. And also credentials. So one thing you're seeing even more is kind of ESG. Is it about young entrepreneurs you want to invest in? Because you can put your knowledge and belief behind your investment strategy as well. So you also can think about that. And I see a lot of active angel investor groups that are looking at this now, trying to help different groups of investments as well. I see a lot of expats actually, especially from the US, who are looking to invest it back into their country. So in Serbia, where I sit, we have an active angel group of Serbian investors who work for Google, etc., who are investing in startups in the ecosystem in the Balkans. And I've seen that in other territories as well. But I think it's really important from the start. Don't think an idea is good because someone else tells you. And I think Mark says the best thing, do the due diligence yourself. Don't let someone else tell you or you read in the paper, because not all AI startups are going to succeed. I know that's the sexy thing to talk about. You need to understand what that AI is bringing and what makes it different as an angel investor and do your own research. And I think that's really important because it's your capital that's at risk. And there's a good chance, because these are startups, you can win a lot, right? And I think this is the challenge sometimes. And I tell people that it's great reading Elon Musk's book and all of these guys' books, but when you've got billions, it's a little bit different. They don't tell you at the beginning some of the challenges you have, like saying no and time constraints and things like this. So you need to understand at the beginning, good chance that your investment may not win. You're going to have a couple that are going to do really well, but you're probably going to have more that fail. So you need to understand that risk that comes with that. And the more work you do at the beginning before you make the investment, the more successful you're probably going to be with your investment.
That was a great response, Mark. Pete, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused about the names. Yeah, sorry. Well, it was a great time talking to you, Mark, Pete, and Silas, because obviously insights as entrepreneurs and insights as investors do vary multiple times from the perspective of different professionals. But having an idea of both these insights is quite important for entrepreneurs because they need to look into and step into both the shoes before making a decision. So thank you all of you for giving us this session and obviously enriching our knowledge along with the participants who are present here. Please do share your email addresses in the chat box along with your LinkedIn links so that if any of our audience has any questions or seeks further information, they can just reach out to you. So as we conclude tonight's sessions, we want to extend a heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed panelists for the invaluable contributions for the first session of Conference 2.9. Your expertise and insights have added immense value to this event today. A sincere appreciation also goes out to each and every attendee for your active participation, and we do value your presence and engagement. We're excited to continue this conference tomorrow with the second session. We'll look forward to see you all there. Till then, do feel free to share your conference experiences by leaving a review on our Google Maps location. We also encourage you to extend the invitation to your friends and acquaintances to join this conference. Do share the conference links with them, and if you are sharing your experience on LinkedIn, do not forget to tag us. Your engagement, inviting friends, and sharing your insights are highly appreciated. Thank you everyone for being a part of this event. Goodbye and have a great day. And keep you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day.